When the coach criticizes you, it's called good coaching. When people criticize players today, it's called hating. And that's why these bombs be driving me crazy. Can play basketball 2 days in a row. We played basketball 2 days in a row. They got better equipment. They got better equipment. They got better medicals. They got cold plunges. They got hyperbaric chambers. They got private planes.
These bums are driving me crazy. That's the line, and it has nothing to do with basketball strategy. It's about a generation that, in Charles Barkley's eyes, cannot handle a single word of criticism without treating it as a personal attack. Coaching became hating. Accountability became disrespect. And once you understand that, everything else clicks into place. Because to Barkley, the excessive three-point shooting, the vanishing big men, and the thing that infuriates him most of all, healthy superstars like Kawhi Leonard sitting courtside in a suit while fans pay full price to watch them rest, none of those are separate issues. They're symptoms of the same root problem. He sees one thread running through all of it: softness. A league that went soft on its players, soft on its fundamentals, and soft on the people who fund the entire operation, the fans. But first, you have to understand why his diagnosis carries a different kind of weight than any broadcaster or analyst could ever bring. Charles Barkley is one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history, a league MVP, an 11-time All-Star, a man who stood 6'6" and dominated players half a foot taller by refusing to be moved and refusing to be soft. He didn't shoot threes. He didn't need to. He physically imposed his will on the most gifted athletes on the planet and built a Hall of Fame legacy doing exactly that. So when Barkley speaks about toughness, about what actually wins basketball games, he isn't theorizing, he lived it. And the first place that softness shows up, according to Barkley, is the very thing the entire league has been celebrating for the past decade: the three-point revolution, the analytics movement, the Golden State blueprint. Because it all started with a fundamental misread. A league full of intelligent people watched the greatest shooting dynasty ever assembled and drew completely the wrong conclusion. The Warriors didn't win because they shot threes. They won because they had something no other team on earth possessed: Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, two of the greatest shooters the game has ever seen, on the same roster at the same time. That wasn't a system anyone could copy. That was a combination of talent that simply cannot be replicated. And yet, the rest of the league looked at that and decided every roster should shoot like Curry. The Houston Rockets, under Daryl Morey, pushed this analytics-driven philosophy to its absolute extreme, and the number that came out of it is genuinely staggering. 7 teams were shooting more threes than the Golden State Warriors. 7 franchises launching more three-pointers than the roster that simultaneously featured Curry, Thompson, and Kevin Durant. And that's when Barkley says the word that made analytics departments across the entire league uncomfortable. That kind of thinking isn't innovative, it's stupid and asinine. Asinine. Not wrong, not misguided. Asinine. Now here's where most people check out. They hear an older player criticizing a newer style and immediately file it under nostalgia, the classic "get off my lawn" complaint. But Barkley shut that door before anyone could open it. He made it clear this isn't about the game looking prettier in his era. It's about something far colder and more logical. It's about advantages and about the single most damaging thing a player can do, which is voluntarily give one away. When a 7-footer drifts out to the three-point line, the defense doesn't panic, the defense exhales. The most dangerous thing about a big man is what he does near the rim. Pull him out to 25 feet and you've neutralized him for free. And no player frustrates Barkley more on this exact point than Joel Embiid, a 7-footer who, when he plants himself on the block, is genuinely unguardable by any single defender in the league. Barkley believes Embiid has the ceiling to be the best player in the NBA, but every time he settles for a three-pointer, the defender's reaction isn't stress, it's relief. Thank you. And to Barkley, the failure runs all the way up to the coaching staff. A coach who forces a one-size-fits-all system onto mismatched talent isn't being innovative, he's being lazy. The job is to weaponize the players in front of you, not squeeze them into a predetermined mold. If you can't use your big men to draw fouls, create double teams, and attack the paint, then, according to Barkley, you simply don't know how to coach. To be fair, Barkley acknowledges that shooting big men do exist, he just refuses to let them become the standard. Dirk Nowitzki and Kevin Durant are generational anomalies, unicorns, and his point is brutal in its simplicity. You cannot build an entire league pretending every 7-footer is one of the two greatest shooting big men in basketball history. He's not at war with analytics either. He's at war with the idea that numbers should replace human judgment entirely, because the simplest and most damning line in his entire argument is this: if you try to do what the greatest ever did, that's not smart. Curry isn't a blueprint. Curry is a miracle. And trying to copy a miracle you cannot perform makes you worse, not better. But here's the part that takes Barkley from annoyed to genuinely furious, and it has nothing to do with shot selection or scheme. It's about respect, load management, healthy superstars voluntarily sitting out games while fans pay full price to watch them in street clothes on the bench. Even with the NBA's new 65-game rule attempting to address this, Barkley isn't satisfied. These players have better medicine, better recovery technology, cold plunges, hyperbaric chambers, private planes, every possible advantage that previous generations never had, and they play less. To a man who did more with far less, that's not just frustrating, that's offensive. And he puts a number on it the way he always does. If his generation could do it for $2 million a year, today's players can certainly do it for $40 million. But the money isn't what makes him angriest, it's who actually pays the price. You can't keep disrespecting the fans like that. It's disrespectful to the game, but more than anything, it's disrespectful to the people filling those seats. Think about who that fan actually is. A father who saved up for weeks just to take his kid to one game. A family that gets to go once a year if they're lucky. They circled the date on the calendar, drove across the state, paid for parking, bought the jerseys, stood in line for overpriced food, all to see one specific player. And that player is sitting on the bench in street clothes, perfectly healthy, watching the game right alongside them. You're earning $90 million and you can't play 2 days in a row. That is 100% wrong. And what really gets under Barkley's skin is the dishonesty layered on top of it. He says he could respect the truth. Just say you're trying to extend your career. Own it. But don't dress up a calculated business decision as a medical necessity and expect everyone to nod along. To drive the point home, he asks you to picture the icons of his generation doing what today's stars do. Can you imagine Magic Johnson sitting out a Celtics game because he played in Brooklyn the night before? Can you even picture how absurd that would sound? Magic sitting out the biggest rivalry in the sport to rest? It would have been a full-blown scandal. Or Larry Bird skipping a Lakers game because the Clippers wore him out the previous night. Completely unimaginable. Because for that generation, pulling on the uniform meant something. Showing up wasn't a favor you granted the fans when you happened to feel like it. It was the job, the whole job. You played because people were in those seats, because somewhere in that arena, a kid was watching his hero for the first and maybe the only time, and you owed him everything you had that night, tired or not. And underneath all of Barkley's anger, that's what he's really mourning, a sense of gratitude he has never lost. We get paid to play a game, he says. We are the luckiest people in the world. So when he watches healthy superstars sit out, players dismiss coaching as hating, and 7-footers chuck threes they have no business shooting, he sees one thing. people who have forgotten how fortunate they are, people who have gone soft. So is Charles Barkley just an old man raging at a game that left him behind? No, because here's what he actually is, a man who never feared change. He said it himself, he would have thrived in this era. He would have adapted. Adapt or you're finished. That's not someone trapped in the past. That's someone saying he would have figured out the modern game faster than anyone because he never needed to hear things twice. His entire argument was never about going backwards. It's that the league mistook imitation for strategy, voluntarily surrendered its greatest advantages chasing a math formula, and somewhere along the line decided that honest feedback was the same thing as disrespect. Barkley isn't asking the NBA to return to 1993. He's asking it to toughen up and start thinking again. If you think he's right about all of it, let him know in the likes. And if you think he's a dinosaur who can't accept how the game has evolved, get into the comments and make your case. For more breakdowns on the legends who say what everyone else is too cautious to say, subscribe and stay locked in.